So moksha, in simple terms, is liberation from the bondages of Maya. Okay? If you haven't looked at my video on Maya, you should go back in the channel and look for the What is Maya video, because I talk about Maya in that video. So moksha is a liberation from the bondages of Maya, the universal illusory force. Maya is the universal illusory force, and that is one of the potencies of God, of the supreme being, of consciousness. Okay, so how do you get moksha then? The way to reach moksha is iterative. Okay, this is important for us to understand. The iterative nature of reaching to moksha is you clear your desires one desire at a time, whether through indulgement and satiation to the point where that desire is no longer relevant to you, or through tapas, or through penances, through austerities. You train your mind through yoga, for example, through meditation, through metacognition. You train your mind to no longer desire that thought. And this is not a forceful process. So you train your mind so that your mind does not waver. Okay? The first verse, the second verse of the Yoga Sutra says this clearly, that the purpose of yoga is the cessation of the vrittis, of the bewilderment that a mind finds in our day-to-day life. So the cessation of thoughts is the effect of practicing mindfulness, yoga, all of these spiritual practices that we talk about. That is another way to reach moksha. But the bottom line of reaching moksha is you have to liberate yourself from these desires, either through natural means, by indulging in that desire, or through spiritual means where you learn that that desire is just a impermanent phenomenon, and you learn to let go of it without using force. Okay? And in the first case, when we indulge in a desire, unfortunately, that could be a slippery slope, because one desire, when it gets fulfilled, our tendencies is, by the nature of how mind works, we tend to find another desire. We tend to create another desire for us to then want to indulge in. So in this way, desire after desire, moksha would be prolonged. And ultimately, everybody finds moksha. This is important for us to know, that ultimately, every one of us find moksha during the time when all of our souls collectively merge to the one soul, and oneness is achieved for all beings, animate and inanimate, in this world. When matter ceases to be matter and merges into that one universal source of power, we call that God, sometimes call that higher power, some people call it consciousness. Science is kind of getting around to having a name for it as we discover more and more. So what I am saying is moksha can be attained by the cessation or ceasing of desires. Okay, that's the only way to attain moksha. That's what I was going to talk to you about today. Now, this is nuanced. Okay, of course, in a 10-minute video, talking about moksha is like, it's not even scratching the surface. But I wanted to make this video because a lot of people are misguided about what actually liberation is. Liberation is not our ability to astral travel. Liberation is not our ability to attain siddhis, for example. Shaktipat, Kundalini activation is not necessarily the only way of obtaining moksha. Any kind of yoga, whether it's bhakti yoga or jnana yoga or karma yoga, is attuned for us to get to moksha. But these processes are iterative, and it requires us to go into surrender one way or the other, because once we learn to surrender to the fact that the higher power within me is actually the same quality as the higher power that is the supreme higher power. In quality, we learn to then start to surrender to that higher power, because ultimately, in our physical body, in our human form, is the only form that we can find moksha in. Lower animal forms do not have an ability to process karma. This is important for us to understand. Also, higher physical forms, such as devas, such as in the astral plane, these creatures or gods or lesser gods or entities, even heaven for that matter, once we reach there, the ability to process karma is no longer there in those physical forms. The only physical form that our ability to process karma exists is in this body, in the human form. And that is the most important thing, because a lot of times people are confused about astral travel and the 14 dimensions, and we have a lot of things we cook up in the name of spirituality, but those are really physical forms. Those are higher or lower physical forms that we are dealing with. Those are not spiritual forms. And this is important for us to understand. Even the 14 dimensions that we tend to travel when we're doing astral traveling are not truly spiritual. They are higher, they're more lighter than our physical bodies, our physical form, but that is still within the realm of the material. Okay, this is very important for us to understand, and I hope you've gotten something out of this video. I hope you've gotten something that is going to help you in the path to moksha as you watch this video, because ultimately all beings of different caste, creeds, and culture, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant to your religious inclination, or even if you're an atheist, it doesn't matter. This applies to all living beings. Ultimately, everybody reaches moksha.